afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay, everyone should know me. I'm Miss Frazier, your counselor, your high school counselor. And today I'm going to be talking to you about something a little different than I normally talk to you about. But I think this is very important. You are ninth graders and there's 25 participants in the room. And we will be discussing Alabama law, what Alabama law says about sexual consent. And the reason that we are going to do this lesson today, first of all, the main reason is Mr. Lyles asked me to talk to you about sexual consent, what the Alabama law says about it. And another reason is I think it's something very important that you know. There's a lot of teenagers get in trouble because they don't know the law. And the law doesn't care that you have not studied the law. They expect you to know what the law says. So therefore today, I'm going to talk to you about sexual consent and what that Alabama law says about it. Now, one thing I do want you to know that to feel free to ask questions and to comment, okay? First of all, we're going to talk about the definition of sexual consent, or consent. It's to permit, approve, or agree, comply, or yield. He consented to the proposal, and we asked her permission, and she consented. Now, when it's applied to sexual contact, it means that at the time of the act, there are actual words or physical conduct indicating freely given agreement. Do y'all understand this definition? I hope you do. You've got to understand this definition of consent. Now, we're going to have a little pretest before I begin my PowerPoint. And just, you don't have to write the answers down on a piece of paper. We're going to answer by raising our hands, okay? The age of consent in Alabama is 14. If you think this is true, raise your hand. Okay, one person thinks it's true. How many of you thinks it's false? Okay. Now, raise your hand if you really don't know. Okay. You should have done that, okay? That's okay not to know. That's why we're having this lesson today. It is illegal for a minor. Whoops. Oh, can you get me back?
No.
There it is. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It is illegal for a minor to have, send, or distribute sexually explicit images of another minor. True or false? How many of you think it's true? Very good. How many of you think it's false? And how many does not know? Okay. If a couple are engaging in consensual sex, but one partner changes their mind midway through, all sexual activity must stop immediately. True or false? If you think it's true, raise your hand. If you think it's false, raise your hand. If you don't know, raise your hand. Okay? If a partner responds to you wanting to have sex with sure or I guess, that is technically a yes. If you think that's true, raise your hand. Okay, thanks for being honest. If you think it's false, raise your hand. And if you don't know, raise your hand. Okay, several of you that don't know. Okay. Individuals aged 15 and younger in Alabama are not legally able to consent to sexual activity, and such action could result in prosecution of statutory rape. If you think it's true, raise your hand. If you think it's false, raise your hand. If you don't know, raise your hand. If a 17 and 15-year-old consent to sexual activity, it is illegal. True, raise your hand. False, raise your hand. And I don't know, raise your hand. Okay, I see there's several of you that really don't know a lot of this stuff. So that I'm so glad we're having this PowerPoint and this lesson today. So again, I'm going to say if you have questions, feel free to ask, because if you have a question, most of the time someone else in here does, and they just do not have the courage to ask it, okay? Now, The age of consent is the minimum age at which an individual is considered legal enough to participate in sexual activity. The age of consent in Alabama is 16. Now let me say this. You live in Alabama right now, so that's what the law says, that the age of consent is 16. However, if you move and you go to another state, the age varies. So let me just tell you about another state, Tennessee, the age is 18. So be very careful if you move to another state. It is illegal for a minor to have, send, or distribute sexually explicit images of another minor. This is something I want you to pay attention to. Teenagers caught sending or receiving explicit images of a minor, including images of themselves, could be prosecuted under the state's child pornography laws, obscenity laws, or material harmful to minors laws. If convicted under Alabama law, an individual will generally need to register as a sex offender. Okay? So, that means do not be sending images of yourself. Do not be receiving images of yourself. Don't be asking your girlfriend or your boyfriend to send inappropriate pictures of themselves, because you could be registered as a sex offender. Can someone tell me what a sex offender is? Yes?
You can't be like 15 feet from like a child or thing.
Okay. What else?
When you move houses, they have to send it to like all the new neighbors around you.
Yes, they do.
You put on a list for the county or whatever.
Yes, there's a book with all the sex offenders in it. And all teachers get it at the beginning of the year. And if you have been convicted as a sex offender, you always stay a sex offender. It doesn't matter that you've served your time or anything. And a lot of crimes that you commit, you'll serve your time and no one else has to know about that. However, if you're registered as a sex offender, that goes with you the rest of your life. I don't care if you're the age of 17 when you were registered as a sex offender, 18, you stay in that book for the rest of your life, okay? And that means that if someone is 18 and has sex with someone that's 15, they can be registered as a sex offender, okay? And like they said, there has to be, once you move close to a church or to a school, then a letter has to be sent to all of your neighbors and in the community saying you are a registered sex offender, okay? No means no. If a couple are engaging in consensual sex, but one partner changes their mind midway through, all sexual activity must stop immediately. The law does not care if it breaks your heart. Do you understand? You understand? I don't care. They've already started having sex and one partner changes their mind, then you must stop. If your partner responds to you by saying, I guess, sure, maybe, that is not a yes. Alabama law says a partner must completely agree. Your partner must say yes. If they do not say yes, you do not have consent. This is what Alabama law says, okay? Whatever we wear, wherever we go, yes means yes and no means no. Clothing is not consent. And what this means is, let's say a girl is wearing provocative clothing. She's got a mini skirt up to here, she bends over, you can see it all. Or if she's got a low shirt and maybe she don't even have to bend over and you can see it all. Or girls, there's a guy that's got a six-pack, he's got his shirt off, he's got shorts on, and he's looking mighty fine, and he's flirting with you. That does not mean that he wants to have sex with you. Is that understood? The state of Alabama does have an exemption. I almost did not put this clip in because I did not want anyone to get confused about this law. But I've always asked my students to be completely honest with me about anything, and we can figure it out if you're honest. So I thought I'm going to be honest with you guys and let you know what the Alabama law says. But do not get confused, okay? The Romeo and Juliet law is the close in age exemption. It is designed to prevent the prosecution of underage couples who engage in consensual sex when participants are close in age to each other. And that close in age in Alabama says it's 2 years, and one or both are under the age of consent. For example, a 17 and a 15-year-old. Let's say the 15-year-old's a girl, the 17-year-old's a boy, and they have sex, then that 17-year-old cannot be charged with statutory rape, okay, because of the Romeo and Juliet law. Now, let me make this very clear. It better be 2 years. If that girl's 14 years old and she likes one day being 15, if she likes 6 months being 15 and you think, I'm 17, she's almost 15, we can have sex. No, sir, you cannot. Or no, ma'am, you cannot have sex. Because then you could be charged with statutory rape if her parents get mad when they find out you've had sex, or if that girl gets mad when you break up with her, then they can charge you with statutory rape, and you will be registered as a sex offender. Do y'all all understand that? Now, we've got a little video we want to show, and it is a little bit humorous, but I think it gets the point across, so I want you to watch it.
If you're still struggling with consent, just imagine instead of initiating sex, you're making them a cup of tea. You say, hey, would you like a cup of tea? And they go, oh my God, I would love a cup of tea, thank you. Then you know they want a cup of tea. If you say, hey, would you like a cup of tea? And they're like, I'm not really sure. Then you could make them a cup of tea, or not, but be aware they might not drink it. And if they don't drink it, then, and this is the important part, don't make them drink it. Just because you made it doesn't mean you are entitled to watch them drink it. And if they say no thank you, then don't make them tea. At all. Just don't make them tea. Don't make them drink tea. Don't get annoyed at them for not wanting tea. They just don't want tea, okay? They might say, yes please, that's kind of you. And then when the tea arrives, they actually don't want the tea at all. Sure, that's kind of annoying as you've gone to all the effort of making the tea, but they remain under no obligation to drink the tea. They did want tea, now they don't. Some people change their mind in the time that it takes to boil the kettle, brew the tea, and add the milk. And it's okay for people to change their mind. And you are still not entitled to watch them drink it. And if they're unconscious, don't make them tea. Unconscious people don't want tea. And they can't answer the question, do you want tea? Because they're unconscious. Okay, maybe they were conscious when you asked them if they wanted tea. And they said yes. But in the time it took you to boil the kettle, brew the tea, and add the milk, they are now unconscious. You should just put the tea down. Make sure the unconscious person is safe. And this is the important part again. Don't make them drink the tea. They said yes then, sure, but unconscious people don't want tea. If someone said yes to tea, started drinking it, and then passed out before they finished it, don't keep on pouring it down their throat. Take the tea away. Make sure they're safe, because unconscious people don't want tea. Trust me on this. If someone said yes to tea around your house last Saturday, that doesn't mean they want you to make them tea all the time. They don't want you to come around to their place unexpectedly and make them tea and force them to drink it, going, but you wanted tea last week. Or to wake up to find you pouring tea down their throat, going, but you wanted tea last night. But if you can understand how completely ludicrous it is to force people to have tea when they don't want tea, and you're able to understand when people don't want tea, then how hard is it to understand it when it comes to sex? Whether it's tea or sex, consent is everything. And
Did y'all understand that video? Did it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now let's do a post test. Again, I want to see your hands if it's true, false, and I don't know. And I hope you know by now. But the age of consent in Alabama is 14. True or false? False. We'll just do it verbally this time. False. It is illegal for a minor to have, send, or distribute sexually explicit images of another minor. True. If a couple are engaging in consensual sex but one partner changes their mind midway through, all sexual activity must stop immediately. True. Okay. If a partner responds to you wanting to have sex, well, sure, or I guess, that is technically a yes. False. False. Individuals aged 15 and younger in Alabama are not legally able to consent to sexual activity, and such action could result in prosecution of statutory rape. True. If a 17 and 15-year-old consents to sexual activity, it is illegal. Why is it false? Romeo and Juliet law, very good. Remember, it must be 2 years, not 2 years and 1 month, not 2 years and 3 days, 2 years at least, okay? Okay, silence does not equal consent. Clear consent is active. It is expressed through words or actions that create mutually understandable permission. Consent's never implied, and the absence of no is not a yes. I'm not sure, I don't know, maybe, and similar phrases are not consent. Do y'all understand that? Coherent, people incapacitated by drugs or alcohol cannot consent. Someone who cannot make a rational, reasonable decision because he or she lacks the capacity to understand the who, what, when, where, why, or how of the situation cannot consent. People who are asleep or in another vulnerable position cannot consent. Do y'all understand that? Let's say that a girl is, or let's say a boy is drunk, and he and his girlfriend, or just a girl, have sex. Is it consent?
No, because he wasn't in his right mind to make decisions.
Very good. He was not coherent, right? Willing. Consent is never given under pressure. Consent is not obtained through psychological or emotional manipulation. Now, how many of you know what psychological or emotional manipulation is? Can someone give me an example?
Emotional would be if you want to say, like, if you don't do this, then something's going to happen, or make them feel guilty.
Very good, very good. For example, like she said, make you feel guilty or make you think something bad's going to happen. For example, let's say a girl and boyfriend are dating and they think they're in love with each other, and one of them wants to have sex but the other one does not. But they say to them, if you love me, you will. That is psychological or emotional manipulation. Or if they say, if you don't have sex with me, then we're going to break up. That's psychological or emotional manipulation. Okay? Consent cannot be obtained through physical violence or threat. Someone, you want to give me an example of that, what that means? Okay? You want to give me another one?
If you're getting physically threatened, it could be like, if you don't have sex with me, then I'm going to hurt someone you know or hurt you.
Okay. Or hurt myself. For example, if you don't have sex with me, then I might kill myself. Or if you don't have sex with me, then I'm going to start a rumor about you. Okay? And someone in an unbalanced power situation, for example, someone under your authority cannot consent. So this means, let's say you get a job and your boss wants you to have sex. You cannot give consent even if you want to, because he has power over you. He has, and so there's an unbalanced power there, and you cannot consent to have sex with someone older than you. This would also include teachers, okay? Does everyone understand that? Okay. Any questions? Ongoing. Consent must be granted every single time. Consent must be obtained at each step of physical intimacy. If someone consents to one sexual activity, he or she may or may not be willing to go further. Let's say that someone kisses you. Does that mean they want to have sex with you?
We don't know.
If someone is, if you're having other sexual activities, does that mean they want to go further and have sex?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am. No, that's right. Let's say you had sex Saturday night. They want to have sex. They don't want to have sex with you Monday. But you went ahead and had sex, is it consensual? No, because they didn't want to. And it doesn't matter that you had sex Saturday night, they don't want to Monday, doesn't mean just because they give consent Saturday night that they're gonna give consent on Monday. Consent, freely given, reversible, informed, enthusiastic, and specific. Y'all understand what that means? Any questions about that? No questions? Consent is everything. You must have consent to have sex, okay? And what word must you have?
Yes.
Yes. How about
Okay.
sure?
No, it's not, that's not full yes.
That's right. Okay, any questions about about my PowerPoint or my lesson today? Come on, ask questions if you got them. My last block had a lot of questions. Yes?
Alright, so you know how in the video we talk about if they're passed out, just put the TV aside? Why don't you just wake them up and ask?
Okay, very good question, because if they're passed out, most of the time they're gonna be passed out. If they're sick, then you sure wouldn't wanna wake them
I mean,
up.
like, do like sleep.
If they're asleep,
You probably
I
don't
wouldn't even.
if they were asleep and you wake them up, if they're not drunk or something like that and they say yes, then that would be consent, right? But if they are drunk, anytime, let's say that one person's drunk and one person's not, and they have sex, even though both of them said yes, is that consent?
No, because he went, the other person went in his mind, like he just.
Right, one's drunk, right? So they're not coherent, remember that. Okay, if they're sleeping, they're not coherent, right? Okay, any other questions,
Like,
John?
I was wondering what you said, like, if they're sleeping, you wake them up, sometimes people mumble stuff. Like, they might mumble yes, but they might not mean it.
That's right, and they may not be too coherent. I know sometimes, I don't know about you, but sometimes it takes you a while to wake up, correct?
That's right.
Okay, and to get thinking like my mom says, it takes me a while to get thinking right in the mornings. So, you know, it might take you a while to get to thinking clearly. So really, that would be consent.
What if both parties are like drunk and they don't remember, like, either one of them remember to have like sexual intercourse consensually?
Okay.
They don't.
Then most of the time, if both of them are drunk and they have sex, then it's really not consent. But most of the time, the law's not gonna get involved unless one charges the other with statutory rape. You see what I'm saying? So, and if both of them's drunk and both of them don't remember, then I doubt one of them's gonna charge the other, okay? I want you to know what the Alabama law says about it, and that you can get in trouble. We have situations where people have gotten in trouble before. But I do want to add this also, that this lesson today is not promoting sex at all. Because my stand on sex is that abstinence is the best policy. Because not only do you have to worry about what the law says, but you also, if you have sex, you have to worry about having a baby or getting an STD. And we all know that using a condom or having a birth control, and if you don't know, then you will after today, that using a condom and birth control is not 100% effective. So you are not at the age, at 16 is too young to be emotionally stable to have sex, even though the law says you can. You're still not emotionally able, and that's why I say that abstinence is everything. And is the best policy. Because even if a girl is on birth control, she's been on birth control and she takes it every day. That does not mean she can't get pregnant. My best friend in high school got pregnant the year after we got out of high school, and she was taking birth control every day and she got pregnant. Condoms. Many people have used condoms and still turned up pregnant. Not only that, is besides a baby, there's worse things that can happen besides a baby. You could get an STD that you cannot get rid of, okay? And just because someone is very pretty, they take a bath every day, they don't look like they would have an STD, they could very well have an STD, okay? So, we're gonna go over just a few scenarios, so I can, want to know that you understand, what consent means. And I want you to tell me when I go over these scenarios, tell me if it was consent or not, okay? Let's do this one, and I have to put on my glasses to do this. Mia and Arlo have been dating for years. They are both feeling in the mood to have sex and are both 19. At the last minute, Arlo suddenly thinks about his dog who died the day before and decided he's no longer in the mood to have sex. But Mia still is. And she gets angry when he says no. Would it be consent?
No matter.
No. Arlo's not giving consent. Harry has his mate Justin over for the night. They are both 18 and love gaming. Harry falls asleep early, and Justin ends up talking to Harry's little sister, Kyra, who is 15. No, one thing leads to another, and they both decide that they want to have sex. Would it be consensual?
No.
Why?
Cause they
One's 18 and one's 15. Very good. Okay, let's do this one. Sydney and Liam met 2 years ago at their local gym. They have both been planning on having sex for a while, but wanted to wait until they were the legal age. They are both now the legal age. Now that she is the legal age, Sydney is nervous and unsure about her decision. She ends up drinking far too much at a party and then tries to have sex with Liam. But Liam is sober. Would it be consensual?
No matter, she wasn't in her right mind.
She wasn't coherent. Very good. Mickey and James have been together for 4 years. Mickey is 20 and James is 23. They have both had sex together in the past. Now James has decided he doesn't want to have sex as he's changed his mind about what he feels comfortable with. But Mickey is trying to pressure him into it. Is it consent?
No matter, James is in
For
her.
3 years.
Well, no, they're not. One's 20 and one's 23, so they're both over the age of consent. But it still wouldn't be consent.
Unless
Because-
James said that you wasn't good.
James is not comfortable anymore, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Lainey and Frank have known each other for 10 years. Lainey is 18 and Frank is 15. They are both ready to have sex and have talked about this with each other. Is it consensual?
No, because one's not the right age.
18 and 15 is 3 years. Okay? Sarah and Mark met 2 weeks ago. Both are 35. Sarah kissed Mark and then he asked if she wanted to have sex. Sarah wanted to have sex. Is it consensual? Why?
Because they're both ready, they both.
She said yes, she gave
She went
consent.
She said yes, and they're both over the age of 16, so it is consensual. Does anyone have any other questions?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, John?
Like, I was talking to, I was on the internet looking at stuff, and then I seen this one where, like, this guy got charged because, like, they're, like, the same age, but one had, like, IQ low or something.
The IQ?
Yes, ma'am.
That, their IQ is lower, then you can also be charged. Okay? If someone, let's say, is not, and I didn't find the law on this, but I have heard about this law, so I'm not 100% sure about it. But I have heard that if they're like, let's say someone, do y'all know we have the white building out here, right? And so you can't just have sex with someone in the white building because their mental capacity is not the legal age of consent, okay? So do y'all understand that?
Yes.
Okay.
I was just wondering this, if a person gives consent, but like after they have sex, they found out this person gave them an STD, can they charge them with anything or no?
No,
But the person didn't tell them or anything.
Cause the other person got.
not just a normal STD. Now, if they had AIDS or something and they know it, then if you have AIDS, you have to tell, you can't have sex unless you tell the person, okay? And then you can charge them. Because, AIDS most of the time equals death, right? Okay. Any other questions? These are some very good questions. I'm glad that you're asking them. so everybody understands the age of consent in the Alabama law. Yes, Tucker?
So say you had a party, both y'all having drinks, and y'all both sides, and after y'all get done, and she said you raped her, but she gave consent, and you had proof that then, would that be?
If you have proof that she, but first of all, you're drunk, she can't give consent, right? Second of all, we're both drunk, right? Like we talked a while ago, if you're both drunk, you're probably not gonna remember too much about what happened. But if she does charge you, let's say she goes ahead and charges you, then you better hope you don't have anything incriminating on your phone. You don't have anything incriminating, you haven't told somebody that you intended on having sex with her, whether she was drunk or not. You better keep your nose clean. Do you understand that? Because there have been cases of she says, he says, okay? And then the other person get in trouble. So you don't want your name to be in the paper or be a sex offender. You don't want to be listed as a sex offender, okay? Any other questions? Now, if anybody wants to come talk to me about anything, you're welcome to. My door's always open. And whatever you say to me is confidential except for 3 things. And those 3 things are, if I think you're about to hurt yourself, I think you're gonna hurt someone else, or someone else has hurt you, then I have to disclose what you have told me. Other than that, you can come talk to me about anything, okay? And I don't tell Miss Anderson, and I don't tell your parents, except for those 3 reasons. So if you feel like you wanna come talk to me about anything, or you have questions that you do not feel comfortable asking in front of a group, then come ask me, okay? Thank you.